We have a simple or a short, I should say, yet very interesting question this week. And it is this: how do you market yourself as an introvert while occasionally putting on the extrovert's cap? I love this question. Kirsty, what say you?
I love this question too because I am a massive introvert. So I feel like, in a way, I'm well positioned to add my 2 cents to this. And Amy, I feel like you are as well. So I think to begin with, the thing that I want to say about this is that I know that it can seem like the best marketing is the loudest. I actually don't think that's the case. So I just want to start there as a point to say that you don't have to be all shouty and, extremely extroverted when you are marketing yourself. I think it's more a case of finding where you feel comfortable and excited to show up. So, for example, this is marketing, this podcast, but Amy, I'm sure you'll agree with me in that this is something that we both really look forward to because it just feels like I'm having like a one-on-one chat with you about business and I get to get really nerdy about it. So for me, this is like a really introverted activity because the actual making of it is just a one-on-one conversation. I don't feel like I'm creating something for mass consumption, even though I guess technically or ideally we are. So that's where I want to start. But Amy, what are your thoughts?
I have a similar thought, and I want to share my thought. And then I want to ask you specifically to define introvert, because I had some interesting sort of thoughts about this just this year, actually. But I was thinking the exact same thing in that usually introverts just don't want to be in groups or don't want to do something, don't want to be talking or socializing necessarily in big groups. And most of your marketing efforts are going to be one-to-one. Or even if they're one to many, you are performing them, writing them, doing them as if they were one to one. Because that's a really interesting thing that differentiates good marketing is that you're always talking to one person, even if you are talking to many. And like an example of like a newsletter. This is like a pet peeve of mine when something says, that like someone writes to all of you, or, you all, or you guys, or this or that, there's only ever one reader, right? There's one person reading it, even though in your mind, you're writing to your audience or to your list or to many people. So I'm agreeing with you to begin with on that one point, but let's define introvert.
Yes, let's. And it's such a good point too, Amy, because like you're right. Like the best, most effective marketing is always written or created for one person. So you're speaking directly to your ideal prospect in most cases. So 100% whenever I see in an email like, hey, everyone, I'm like, no, you're ruining the facade of this being like a one-to-one interaction. And also, for what it's worth, I'm forever coaching people inside my program to imagine sitting down, having a conversation with their ideal prospect at this certain point in their funnel or in the life cycle of their business or in the nurture process, because like 9 times out of 10, that's the thing that helps people really conceptualize what they need to say and how to actually say it in a really natural way. So if that's relevant for anyone listening, a really good tip as well. But back to your excellent question, Amy, introvert, extrovert. So I think the clinical definition of this is where you get your energy from. So if you're an introvert, you get your battery charged by being alone. If you're an extrovert, you get your battery charged by being in company with other people. So like I am 100%, as I said, an introvert. I have to really psych myself up to go to things, even social things with people who I love dearly. Like it's such an energy cost to me that I have to really be careful with, I guess, how much capacity I devote to those settings. So does that resonate with you, Amy? Because I could see you sort of nodding along to the definition there.
It absolutely resonates with me. And it's funny because I had this conversation this year with my therapist, actually, because I perceive myself as sort of an ambivert. It's simply you're a mix of the two. You get sort of energized and stimulated by in both situations. And my question was like, do you move from one to another? Because I think I used to be much more of an extrovert and I used to get much more of my energy being in a group or crowd, or I looked forward to those things. I don't anymore as much. And I brought it up because I'm really like, as well as I know you, I'm really surprised to hear you say that you have to like psych yourself up to go to things. Yeah, that surprises me. Because I've been with you in a lot of social situations, well, a lot, a good number, with a
Yeah.
lot of people. And you're just like, you're so I don't know, you're so comfortable and easy and fun and relaxed, but I don't know, maybe you were like, sitting in your room first, like, meditating and deep breathing. I don't know.
Rocking in a corner.
Yes, I mean, yes. I mean, I'm trying to think of what situation would you be marketing? I guess maybe if you're networking, I was going to say, would you be marketing in a situation where being an extrovert would be handy or beneficial? Networking, going to conferences, going to events, and that could be the extrovert cap. I guess we all have an extrovert cap, right? That you grab at the door before you take that deep breath and go out and be with people. I think as far as marketing yourself, I mean, I'm thinking most of the marketing activities that I teach, and I think probably that you teach, are very much things that you do on your own, but speaking to a group of people. So where does the extrovert piece come in? So if you're just moving through your business life, I think one of the places that you really have to put that extrovert cap on is in a discovery call or in a meeting with a client. Any place where you're sharing your expertise. Certainly if you're running anything or you're teaching anything, I think that's really handy. But what do you think? When do you put on that cap and how does that work?
Yeah, and as you were saying all of that, I was like, it's actually very clever of you to have got us to start our response, well, sorry, recenter our response, because I started off, galloped off down a track that perhaps wasn't necessarily the right place to begin, because the definition piece of these things, I suspect, is perhaps surprising to some people, and even you're surprised that I'm an introvert, because I think people often confuse the two, with extrovert being someone who is like able to be in a social situation and make real connections and share their ideas and, in a business sense, I guess, show up and deliver a workshop or show up to a discovery call and, really be in that conversation and ask great questions and, really smoothly execute a sale. That is not part of the introvert extrovert equation, right? We're talking about different things. So I actually wonder if this person who's asked this question is getting a little bit confused there, just in terms, maybe their question is more about like, how do you talk about yourself in a public setting? Thinking that perhaps may be an extroverted trait. Am I making sense so far? I'm hearing myself and I'm like, oh.
I know, I think you're making perfect sense actually. And just to go sideways again for a sec, I mean, this is what came up for me this year was my therapist saying to me, but well, you're really an introvert. And I was like, I almost felt a little offended. But what it was exactly that. It was defining it by how do you recharge? Like, what do you need? And I like a lot of alone time. I like quiet. I like I need that. That's how I recharge. That's and I can tell. I mean, I can even be in social situations and I've got like this like, social meter and it's like it's like it's over the top. I can tell like in another half hour or hour of this, I'll crash. And now that I'm saying this, I remember you told me that like, that you can disappear at things.
I do. I am known in my friendship circle as always being the first one to leave a party and the least likely to say goodbye. Because I also have that experience and I get to the point where my meter's like, alert, alert. And I just disappear because I have to. Otherwise I'm going to get agitated and like be grumpy at the thing. And I don't want to do that. So I think maybe a part of this conversation, and by the way, Amy, just to like, I love that you were surprised that I'm an introvert, because I want to say that I do actually love spending time around people. I genuinely do. Like, I'm fascinated by humans and I love making connections and meeting people. And like, I really love getting a chance to hang out with people in person as well. And I also have to make sure that I have a lot of alone time factored into that, because otherwise I get burnt out very quickly. So it's not that being an introvert means I don't love being around people. It means that I have to be mindful of how much energy and capacity that's going to take from me. And I have to therefore like build in like recharge moments within events and those sorts of things. But I wonder if something that might be useful to unpick a little bit here in response to this question is how freeing and energetically efficient it is to be able to be authentic in your marketing. Because I think that when you're not expending energy showing up as a certain or curated version of yourself, and you're just yourself talking about your ideas quite freely, and that comes through in how you write copy, for example, as well, I think that that can reduce the capacity cost if you are an introvert and you're looking for ways to show up more easily in the marketing that you do. And I would say as well, sometimes it's about finding people who you just have an ease with. And Amy, like you are one of those people for me. Like, and I remember saying this to one of my best friends a while ago, and she took it as the biggest compliment I've ever given her because she understood what it meant. I said to her, "You don't count." And I meant that in a way that I could spend like my whole life in a room with her and I wouldn't feel like my capacity was being eaten away at. And you are the same for me, Amy. So that I think is a huge part of what makes this piece of my marketing so easy and light and delightful. And I always look forward to it. Was anything in there helpful? Or perhaps I also just went down a random tangent about my own personality traits.
No, I think it is helpful. And I think that the quality of being shy and also in business, I think there's some tie-in with this idea of not blowing your own horn or not bragging or talking about yourself in a certain way. And when you get into business, like suddenly you have to, like that's becomes very, very important. Right. You need to be able to express your ideas and you need to be able to share your expertise without going like, oh, look, I'm the smart one in the room, or I'm the this, or I'm the that, which we've all been taught is like, from little kids, like that's not very attractive. And one of the things that I run into all the time coaching people is this diminishment of what we're really good at, right? So the things that come really easily to us, we tend to dismiss like, oh, that's really easy, or oh, everyone can do that, or what's the value because it's so easy. And the same things are not easy for all of us. I mean, not by a long shot. We all have these qualities or these traits. And I often think that's actually where I don't love the term superpower, but I don't know what else to call it. I think that's like where your strengths lie, right? In those things that come easily to you. And so bringing this into the introvert extrovert piece, I think part of that is learning how to speak about yourself and talk about what you know in a way that delivers value, but doesn't make you feel like the smarty pants. And I do know who asked this question. And so I suspect I'm bringing in a little bit of what I suspect they may be thinking, experiencing. How does that resonate?
All of it resonates so well. And I think you've actually hit the nail on the head. And as you were speaking, I was like, oh, I wonder if this is a better frame for the question. So can I ask you this question in a slightly different way? Because I would love to hear your answer.
Yeah, of course.
How do you be visible in your business without being loud or tooting your own horn? I wonder if that's the crux of the question. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's an excellent question and a really good point. I think the way that you do that is by sharing your expertise and by being generous. And I actually am a big fan of that in the value equation in business in general. So I'm a big believer that you should deliver value before money changes hands, right? It's not about everything isn't so much of a, open your hand, give me something equation. So in doing that, and if anybody in fact buys into that, the way that you do that is by sharing your expertise. But it's not about raising your hand and saying, I know this or I know that. It's about, I think of it more in a problem solution kind of a framework. So, if someone is a potential client or someone you might work with, they're coming to you because they need something solved. They have a problem and you have a solution. And so the way that you help them and talk about it and brainstorm some ideas or tell them like, hey, this is how I would think about this, or this is how I might approach this, or here's some ways that we could do this. But it's based on your expertise. It's based on your experience. It's based on what you've seen. It's based on what you've studied. It's based on what you know. So it's a way that you can demonstrate your expertise and talk about what you know without being without like trying to call attention to yourself. And, like as an aside, there are people who do that. I mean, they're really annoying, right? The people who like they have to jump in and they have to be right and they have to show you how much they know and they have to show you how right they are. That's very different than being quietly knowledgeable and willing to be generous and helpful, I think.
Yes, I totally agree. And I would almost say, like, your advice on how to be is so much more magnetic, whereas the other one, where you have the person who's so loud and has a need to be heard and a need to be right at all times, that's actually quite repulsive in a way, or like repellent, maybe is the more appropriate word to pair with magnetic. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. And so I think, I mean, to sort of tie this up, like how to market yourself as an introvert, I think, it comes back to what you said, which I think was like kind of the succinct, sort of nice, neat version of this is to be yourself, right? And I think this is another thing I see a lot in business is people need permission to do that because suddenly people like you get in a business environment. It's funny, like the bigger the client is, like the more deep pocketed they are, the more they're in some kind of corporate structure, the more people get into their like sort of like dear sir kind of
Yeah.
formal setting kind of way of being.
Kind regards.
Yes, kind regards. Thank you ever so. I think the more that you are authentically you, and I mean authentically you, it just sounds awful, but like the more you like, the more you can just be yourself and bring whatever sort of funny, quirky pieces of you to the table, the more you come across as comfortable, and the more comfortable you are, the more comfortable it is to be around you. And I think one of the things about being stiff and being formal is, or not being you, is people sense that something is a little bit off. And what they don't know is that you're uncomfortable. They can think all kinds of other things. So like it's very important to sort of be comfortable in your skin in all the situations that you're in because, well, I mean, I think it's just good for the soul, but besides that, I think it just gives a better impression. People feel good around you. They can tell that you're who you are, right? There's none of that uncomfortable, like, is this for real? Is this not for real? Like nobody's, bullshit-o-meter is going off you know, in that circumstance. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like when you're able to be comfortable and relaxed, which I know sounds simple, but is actually quite a big task, right? Especially when you feel visible in business, if that's a new experience for you. But I think when you are able to just be comfortable with who you are and not care so much about who and who isn't going to resonate with what you're putting out there, knowing that you're not for everyone, your marketing's not for everyone. The goal isn't to convert everyone to your way of thinking and your offers. It's to speak to the specific person who you can genuinely help. I think that exchange becomes easier. And as you say, like people are leaning into you more because there's not part of their intuition that is saying, oh, something's off here, like something is feeling forced or fake. I think as well, one more tip I will give this person and anyone else who's listening who feels like this conversation is for them is if you are someone who is introverted and who struggles to put yourself and your ideas and your offers out there through your marketing, a really helpful thing to remind yourself of is that your prospect or the person who you're reaching or trying to reach with your marketing, they are also opting into that conversation at some point. So if you imagine being in a physical room, like as an introvert, you're probably less likely to be the one who wants to initiate the conversation. But you're thinking about the fact that the other person is already in the room. Maybe they've come up to you because they like your hair or, they want to ask you about something that you're standing near, like whatever that is. If you translate that to the online world, the person has opted into your list. They're waiting to hear from you. So it's not that you're the person making the first move in a lot of cases, or even if it's that, you're posting on LinkedIn, the person you're trying to reach is already on there. So they've made a move towards you already. So I just think sometimes if you're someone who struggles with the idea of being like, I have to like put myself out there and like be annoying and make the first move, it's like, no, it's actually, it takes two to tango. So it's about how can you connect once you're both in that same space. So if that's helpful, tuck it away, run with it, remind yourself of it when you're feeling any resistance around showing up in your marketing.
Yeah, and to that end, I would really suggest, if you're not already on Kirsty's list, particularly on her email list, get on it because you do that really, really well. And that's something I've always loved about your writing. I mean, it's interesting, it's smart, it's clever, but it is like so fully you that, I mean, somebody could read it out loud. I wouldn't know that it was yours, but I would know it was yours. Do you know what I mean? If I hadn't seen who it came from. I mean, you're really good at that. And I think you've embraced sort of all of it, the messy, the not so messy, the ugly, the funny, whatever it is. I mean, I think it's part of your charm, and I think it's part of what endears you to people. And I think people are really afraid to do that, and it can be hard. It's hard for me to do. It is. I mean, it doesn't come naturally to me. I've learned how to do it, over time. But anyway, I think you're a great person to follow for that, and I feel like when you read other people or you see other people who are successful or doing it, it loosens the screws just a little bit, right? You're like, oh, I can, I can do this too. So I think we've covered this quite fully at this point.
I think we have. I mean, we've gone far and wide here, but I hope that we've given something really usable and perhaps a better frame of reference for what the question within the question might actually be. So yeah, if you have anything else though, like the person who asked this, if you want us to go in a different direction, or you want to give us some more context, or if you're listening and you're like, oh yes, I wonder about this too, but I wonder about it in this specific situation, you can ask us and we would love to answer it on a future episode. So head over to businessbadass.co and you will find the question submission form waiting for you there.
Thank you so much. We will catch you in our next episode. Bye for now.
If you've enjoyed listening to us share our insights on this episode and you want more, head to the links in the show notes to find where you can sign up to be on our newsletters. So Amy's newsletter delivers weekly insights on how to build and grow a sustainable business that fills your coffers and feeds your soul. And my newsletter is all about optimizing your communication skills and habits. So the link in the show notes will take you to my assessment that will help you pinpoint your communication style and give you some strategies to improve and optimize things this week.